Three mistakes of the Celtics. Ex-76ers collapse. Can Jaylen Brown save it? If you support the Celtics, you felt it. The game was in hand, and suddenly collapse. Don't worry. In a few minutes, I'll show you exactly why. There were three errors that killed Boston against the 76ers. Number 2, almost no one notices in the statistics, and number 3 can be corrected today. Before the next game, you need to understand these plays: broken spacing, late reading in the pick and roll, and the decisive possession in the clutch. And there's more. Jaylen Brown can flip that switch with a simple adjustment. Stay with me until the end, because mistake number 3 is the one Philly doesn't want Boston to correct. Let's go. If this type of analysis helps you, leave a like now and subscribe so you don't miss the Celtics' next clutch adjustments. Activate the bell. At the end of the video, I show mistake number 3 in detail and the move that could turn the series around. Let's go. If I could sit down with you, face to face, and review every detail of the last 5 minutes against the Philadelphia 76ers, I would start with a simple question. Why did a game that was in my hands slip like water through my fingers? It wasn't for lack of talent. It wasn't for lack of will. It was through a sequence of micro-decisions, old habits that knocked on the door at the worst moment, and a collective gear that, under pressure, creaked where it previously turned smoothly. Today, I want to take you through this path step by step, as if we were on the couch, controller in hand, stopping and replaying the moves, to understand what actually happened. Then, let's talk about Anthony Simons on defense, with the frankness that a start to the season demands. And finally, let's face the topic that no one likes, but everyone needs to discuss: the impact of sports betting on the league environment and why this issue needs to be treated seriously without shortcuts. The Last 5 Minutes movie, where the road turned to gravel. You probably remember the score, the atmosphere, the feeling of it's under control. That's exactly where the danger lies. In big games, against an opponent who knows how to punish you for a false step, controlled is a comfortable illusion. The 76ers thrive on punishing distractions and exploiting any imbalance on the weak side. The final stretch exposed this clearly. There was one specific sequence that sums up the night. Derek White and Jaylen Brown execute a perfectly designed pick and roll. The defense doubles down on the driver, the layup line opens up, the anticipation pass is there, begging to be made, and it is made. But the receiver doesn't read as the roll man, but rather as the finisher who hunts for mismatches. Result: mismatch of intentions. The ball hits the fingertips, possession becomes disorganized, the shot comes out worse than expected. It wasn't anyone's fault if we view guilt as something moral. It was, yes, a product of repertoire. Jaylen has rarely been invited throughout his career to live as a screener roller who receives in short space and makes 2 decisions in a second: finish or release in the dunker spot corner. In moments of tension, the mind looks for the known place. And Jaylen's known place, historically, is isolation or the favorable exchange to attack head-on. This play is didactic for a reason. It reveals where the team wants to go. A basketball of reading and reacting in which the advantage comes early and the ball rewards the correct decision, and how hard it is to break habits when the margin for error disappears. It is not enough to know what should be done. It needs to be automated. And automating, in elite basketball, means repeating in volume, under fatigue, under noise, under a short clock. This is where teams become reliable groups, and talented players become real-time problem solvers. Another key point in this final stretch: defense at the point of attack and what happens behind it. The plan took risks, as the modern game demands, but risks require impeccable communication chains. When the center is dragged to the perimeter, 2 things need to happen instantly. Whoever is in the middle needs to announce everything: cut, pin down, split, backdoor, and the wingers have to see 2 balls, protecting the rim and recovering with body control. In the final minutes, Boston fluctuated right there. It wasn't a matter of effort, it was unevenly paced. An assist that comes half a second too late turns into a clean shot in the corner. A box out that doesn't find the body becomes a second chance. Add up these grains of sand and you have 5-7 free points, which in games of this level are equivalent to a blank check for the opponent. There was also the play that many people will find okay in the box score, but which in the film takes a toll. The opportunity to dig into the lack of attack that turned into a challenge at the rim. Recognizing when the best move is to stay planted, take contact, and fall is a less glamorous but extremely valuable art. Instead of possession returning to the attack with an emotional and scoring advantage, what came was an offensive rebound from the opponent after a disproportionate duel. The board. It's not about courage, it's about reading. In the last detail, reading weighs more than impulsion. But then, it's just a case of adjusting communication and reading, you may ask. In part, yes, but adjusting, again, isn't about pressing a button. It's training with intention. It's giving Jaylen, Pritchard, White, and company end-of-game situations in which the screener is not an extra, he is the pivot of the story. Repeat until the writer feels the pass before it leaves. It's making discomfort natural. The winger who embraces the role of calling coverage, the point guard who trusts that the ball will return, the pivot who coordinates like a veteran central defender. And it means accepting that in this transition, some setbacks will come. The line between a hit and a near miss is as thin as a razor. The role of the bigs. When the voice in the background organizes everything, there is a lot of talk about stumps, drop coverage, integral switch, blitz on the handler. All of this counts. However, in tight finals, the voice that organizes is as important or more important as the hand that contests. Al Horford was, and is, a master at pointing out danger before it appears. Cut to the back, switch, stay, two in the corner. Without that baton, you depend on individual instinct, and instinct under pressure becomes subjective. The result is 3 defenders on 1 man on the ball side and a lone shooter a pass away. It's not that the current bigs can't do it, it's just that they're not yet in the right tempo of the collective metronome. They are learning to play music, and while they learn, each final possession deserves almost pedagogical care. Who calls what? Who is in charge of who? What is the rule when the opponent moves piece X on the board? The duel with the 76ers left another lesson. When a more aggressive defensive model is embraced, the cost of indecision increases. The first aid must be resolute, the second, calculated, the third, inevitable. Without that, the game slips into the hands of an explosive guard like Tyrese Maxey, who turns hesitation into acceleration. You can choose how much risk you want to take, but you can't choose the price to pay without conviction. Jaylen Brown and silent reinvention. It's easy to look at the score sheet and want Jaylen to increase points, rebounds, assists. The reinvention that the team needs from him, however, is not statistical. It is cognitive. It's accepting that the best use of your talent on nights like this is not always the most flashy. Sometimes it's being the screener who breaks the first contact, who rolls with the right angle, who lifts his head and finds the extra pass. Sometimes it's breaking a perfectly understandable impulse to challenge the rim and instead planting your feet a foot outside the restricted area to take the charge. In others, it's being the guy who shouts "change" before his teammate realizes, who pushes his teammate 2 steps inside and saves him from the ball on his back. That's no small feat. That's a lot. And yes, that's a lot to ask of someone who already carries so much. But it is precisely this step that separates the good from the ruthless. There is no doubt that Jaylen has the physique and skill. The challenge now is to train your eyes until these readings become automatisms. The day that the anticipation pass for the role comes as natural as the long step towards the rim, Boston will gain an end-of-game resource that does not depend on a hot hand or a friendly whistle. It depends on understanding. Anthony Simons on defense, an honest portrayal of a process. Talking about Anthony Simons' defense requires honesty. Has he improved? Yes. Are you ready? Not yet, and that's okay. What stands out most is that the effort is there. Seeing the guard move up the line, deny the passing line, fight over the block, bother the reception, that changes the tone. But the technique against top-shelf attackers needs to be surgical. Where do you pick it up today? First, the dying on contact in pick and roll. It's not that he lacks courage. All that remains is to use your hands and hips to rub against the screener and keep your shoulder glued to the driver without opening the corridor. Second, the overreaction when he sees the back or the ball exposed. Reading a steal on an exposed back is tempting, but every step forward that doesn't turn into a steal turns into a long rotation for someone, and a long rotation at the end of the game invites an offensive rebound. The commission knows this, and, honestly, it's simpler to trim those who pull too much than to inflate those who never bite. The good news is that his best defensive play of the match wasn't a highlight. It was an entire possession of discipline. Deny, pass the block, contain, show the body, force a lateral pass. It is this clip that needs to be repeated daily. There is also the collective component. If the team embraces a system that invites forced error, active hands, closed gaps, more ball touches than passive containments, everyone has to speak the same language. Simon's aggressiveness needs to come with ready coverage at low man and with split rebounds. If not, the final picture always becomes the same. Good first effort, contested shot that turns into a long rebound, second chance that costs dearly. Details that add up to victory's cue. When we calmly review the final stretch, some principles emerge as pillars for the next tight game. First pass after the advantage. Did you create 2 against 1? The pass needs to go to the right zone, at the right time. It's not just passing, it's taking your teammate into space where the defense can't reach. Roll angle. The roll is not a blind run to the basket, it's a curve with time. A further step inwards opens the pocket pass window, one less step closes the defender on the opposite side. Vertical communication. The one who is protecting the rim is the conductor. If the pivot moved to the perimeter, someone needs to take over. There can be no man's land in the center of the bottle in the final minute. Situational rebound. At the end of the game, the fight for the board is less about jumping and more about sealing. Push your body before looking at the ball. A well-made box out is worth 3 centimeters of momentum. Unglamorous decision. Sometimes, the best move for the star is the role player. Strong light screen, short roll, short pass, charge take. Winning finals is a job of craft. Discomfort as a method. Teams that turn tight finishes into a reliable routine cultivate a seemingly simple habit. They train discomfort until it becomes normal. Do you want Jaylen to be more present as a screener and roll man? Put him through it at the end of practice with simulated scores, body fatigue, and noise in the gym. Does Simons want to survive the pick better? Give him 100 repetitions a day of passing over, inside hand on the handler's hip, outside leg free, clear communication with whoever is in the drop. Do you want the group to talk more? Establish a rule. A beautiful basket without prior communication is worth less in training. It seems like a silly detail. It is not. The best defenses scream the play before it is born. The uncomfortable subject, betting, integrity, and choices. Talking about sports betting in the league environment is treading sensitive ground. The topic has become part of the routine. Advertisements, sponsorships, live lines, predictions just a touch away. This is not, in itself, a crime. The problem arises when the ecosystem opens up a space for someone within the court to interfere in markets that live on micro-events, unders and overs of individual shares, and when vigilance does not keep up with the speed of temptation. There is no perfect solution, but there is posture. Absolute transparency in communication between league and houses, protocols that trigger alerts whenever anomalous patterns appear, investigation that does not stop at the statement, "We checked and everything was fine," and most importantly, regulatory courage to review whatever is necessary, including the role of player props that are easier to manipulate. It's not about demonizing those who bet responsibly. It's about shielding what happens on the court so that each possession continues to be worth what it's always been worth, sweat and technical decisions. No matter the political discomfort, no matter if it displeases some trading partners, the integrity of the game is the product. Without it, everything else is shell. If you are going to make a mistake out of rigor, not out of omission. What's left for tomorrow? Perhaps the greatest truth after an ending like the one we saw is also the simplest. The team is in a process. Processes have edges, and tight ends are amplifiers of these edges. It's not a matter of erasing the board and starting from scratch. It is about refining what is already being designed. To Jaylen, embrace the secondary initiator role in the pick and roll as a core part of the repertoire. Practice reading the anticipation pass like you practiced the first step, and adopt, without glamour, charging as a strategic resource. Every offensive foul made in the final minute is worth its weight in gold. For Simons, turn your best defensive possession into a standard. A good first contact cannot die at the first lockdown. Use your hands and hips, keep an arm's length away, and choose your robbery hunting moments better. If the team needs aggression, let it be the aggressiveness that builds, not the one that leaves behind. For the bigs, and for those at the bottom, take ownership of the voice at the core. If the defense is going to be aggressive, the core needs to be authoritarian. Whoever is at the bottom has to warn intersections, cut lines, and decide the aid hierarchy in real time. For everyone, communication is not a prop. It's a game plan. If 3 players fall on the same ball on the strong side, it is because a phrase was missing a second before. And yes, phrases win games. Closing the door with a key. The last 5 minutes against the 76ers were not an isolated accident. They were a mirror. They showed a team that has already managed to create advantages, but is still learning how to convert them into cold points on the scoreboard. A squad that knows what it wants defensively, but needs to find a stable maestro for when the pieces move too quickly. Players capable of brilliant acts who now need discreet and decisive routines. Between the version that almost wins and the one that closes the door, there is, in practice, a handful of habits. The pass that comes half a second earlier, the roll a step deeper, the charge that takes down a promising attack from the rival, the box out that erases the second chance, the right word in the ear of the teammate before the cut in the back. None of this makes headlines, but all of this, added together, becomes a score. If you've made it this far, you can already imagine the tone of the next video on the channel. Let's cut out these plays one by one, and together build a map of how to turn an advantage into victory. No shortcuts, no excuses, no witch hunts. With method, with repetition, and with the serenity of someone who knows that endings are, above all, reading tests. The rest is noise. And when the next game gets tough, because it will get tough, I want you to recognize, live each of these micro decisions. I want you to notice the moment when the screener becomes the protagonist, that the anticipation pass finds the player's chest, that the help arrives from the right side, that the rebound is sealed before rising, that the charge is taken without hesitation. When that happens, the score will look less capricious, and the feeling of you are under control will no longer be an illusion, but will become a consequence. See you in the next postgame. Bring your notes. I bring mine. Let's build this reading together, possession by possession, until the final 5 minutes are just 5 more minutes of our team doing what they trained to do. The time has come to turn the key. If these final 5 minutes showed anything, it was this. Details win games, and we will master every detail together. Do you want to see, move by move, how to transform reading into results and close matches with authority? So don't scatter. Click now on the Celtics analysis playlist. That's where I delve into each adjustment, break down plays with visual examples, compare end-of-game scenarios, and deliver practical plans for the next night. Don't leave it for later. Open Celtics Analytics, choose the next video, and come with me to build the Celtics that closes doors. Every click is a step towards the relentless team you want to see on the court. Let's go, Celtics Playlist Analytics, now.